is the safety demonstration for the compound miter saw. So this particular miter saw comes down like this, also known as a chop saw. This thing can be swiveled on any angle. Go anywhere from say 45 to 50 degrees this way and almost 60 that way. But we try to keep it locked in at 0 because this is a cutoff saw. This thing also has a slide that allows this thing to come out so that we can get almost a 16-inch cut with our 12-inch cross-cutting blade here. So this is only used for cutting stuff to length. For example, this 2x4, right? We're going to cut this thing down. We're going to take an inch or two off it. And when I mark stuff, I always mark and I put an X on the scrap side of the line. So I've marked this thing, and with the scrap side, I'm going to come down and I'm going to line up the blade on top of my piece. I'm not squeezing the trigger, and I'm looking through the blade to make sure that I'm coming down on that line there. So I'm going to bring this thing down, line it up. I'm going to try to leave my line showing. Then when I cut, I'm going to start at the top position. I'm going to finish at the down so that when this thing stops spinning, it doesn't come up with the blade spinning. I'm holding with my left hand, pushing down with my fingers, and pushing forward with my thumb to keep this thing tight up against this part, which is the fence. So I'm going to line this up, start all the way at the top, holding with my left. When I finish the cut, I want you to leave it down, wait for that thing to stop before you bring it back up, get that thing out of the way. If I need to make an angled cut, say I set this thing to 25 degrees. I want to make sure that I'm holding on the bigger side of the angle, not over here. Okay, the shortest length of material you can cut is 5 inches. So this is a little bit longer, which makes it all right. Lock that thing down with the miter lock. I'm going to go ahead, line up my cut. Same thing. You never cross your hands, right? So you never hold with your right and cut with your left. So even if you're on this side, you reverse the hands if I'm cutting on this side. I'm cutting on this side of the blade. Put my hands this way. So I line up my cut, start in the up, finish in the down. Okay, wait for it to stop before bringing that thing home. Next thing, if I need to use the slide, I need to unlock the slide here in the back side of the machine, pull this thing out. I'm going to give myself a line to cut on. So I'm going to cut on this line here. I'm going to go ahead, line this up, and I want to pull the thing all the way out. So I'm cutting down, pushing forward. Now this won't give you the best cut, but it's the safest way to do it so you're not bringing the saw out towards your hand here. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up. Start it all the way at the top. I'm holding my left. Wait for it to stop, return it home. Try to remember to lock that thing back up after you use the slide because we don't want the next person to have that thing moving on there. This saw also can cut on an angle this way. So if you're cutting a compound angle with crown molding or something, you may need to do that. But for the most part, we want to keep this thing locked in at 90. Last thing, if I need to make the same cut over and over again, I'd want to use what's called a stop block. Something so I can make the cut over and over and over again without having to redo it. So if I had to make 40 of the same cuts of this block, then I'd want to have this thing set up so I can make those cuts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this little clamp here and tighten down a block that's whatever distance I want to be away from the blade. So say I wanted an 8-inch cut over and over again. I'd bring the blade down, I'd measure 8 inches out, put my stop block there, clamp it down, and then every time I bring a piece up to the stop block here, right, I'm going to have to reverse my hands now. It'll stop, I can cut it. I can bring the next piece in, it'll stop, and I can cut it. Okay? So I can make the same cut several times in a row without having to do a lot of setup. So it makes your measurements a little bit more consistent and it reduces some time to make the cuts. So that's the long and short of the miter saw.